welcome. These words from Reverend Jacob Trapp. To worship. To worship is to stand in awe under the heaven of stars, before a flower, a leaf in sunlight, or even a grain of sand. To worship is to be silent, receptive to the mystery within as reaching out to the mystery beyond. To worship is to work with dedication and with skill, and it is to pause from that work and listen to a strain of music. To worship is kindred fire within our hearts, moving through deeds of kindness and acts of love. It is the window, a window that we claim and create through deeds of kindness, acts of love. It is the window of a moment opening to the sky. I'd like to invite now Ron Solberg up to say our covenant and invite you to say it along with him as we light the chalice.
Should I read this? In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and share.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Unitarian Church of Hinsdale. I am grateful to see so many of you here. And the people that are online, welcome, welcome, welcome too. Whether you're joining us from near or far, we're glad that you're here today. I am Karen Mooney. My wife is Pam. I am the community minister here at the Unitarian Church of Hinsdale. My pronouns are she and her. Each of us brings a lot of different lenses with us into the identities that we claim in this world. And I want you to know that we work to ensure that all of yours are welcome here. We are committed to holding up the value that everyone is worthy of dignity and respect, and that each and every person has their own expression of how they see themselves in the world and how they live. I'd like to say thank you to Ron Solberg and our worship associate today, and to Jamie Passman, our music coordinator, and ongoing gratitude, deep gratitudes for the technicians, Alex and Jean Safer, who make this multi-platform worship possible. I came in today, the TVs weren't working, boom, it was great. There are a lot of other things going on around church today. Is an animal ministry meeting. Folks are meeting after service. If you'd like to join in, please do. There are a number of ways to ensure for the care of your spirit in this community. On Mondays at 7, there's an opportunity to explore Buddhist meditation. What does it mean to sit and listen to something that is silence? Tuesday at 3 p.m., our Wise Elders meet. If you need more information, please reach out to Tracy Olsen-Potoff. And at 7:30, people will gather via Zoom, very social distance, to talk about a book, a nonfiction book. Then on Thursday, there is a practice, a spirit-led in practice class with Len Edgen. Please check out our website so that you can see the calendar and get more information as you need. And if you need some help still trying to find your way into connecting to our community, if you're still feeling a little new, please also reach out to the church office, and we'll get you to the place that will help to feed you throughout the week. If you're new to the church, you can also sign up to receive publications on the website, fill out a contact form, or simply send an email to the office. Either is good. I'm going to invite up Jonathan Hand and Dave Lloyd for some live announcements. And as they're coming to the stage, I want to remind you, as they're coming to the stage, I want to remind you that we are still in our annual pledge drive. If you have not yet had the opportunity to get your information back to the church, we encourage you to take that time to do that today. And thank you for all of your generosity. In doing this, you will ensure that a pledge volunteer does not need to reach out to you. Yay! Dave, Jonathan?
Good morning. Thank you, Reverend Karen. I'm pleased to announce to our congregation that we have begun our efforts to help the citizens of Ukraine. In the upcoming edition of the Touchstone, you'll see an article with suggestions for how all of you can help. So far, we've received 3 contributions in support of 5 international organizations. These include Catholic Relief Services, the International Committee of the Red Cross, United Nations Central Emergency Response Fund, the International Rescue Committee, and the Larissa Hill Fund, which provides direct financial support to individual citizens and families of Ukraine. Contributions from 2 of our members total $2,300. Of this amount, $2,000 will be matched by a local employer, Wintrust Financial. So our total so far is $4,300. If any of you are comfortable sharing what you're doing with me, I can include regular updates on our aggregate efforts. Thank you very much.
Your Green Sanctuary Committee is working with Redeemer Lutheran and Union Church to hold a recycling and shred event on Saturday, April 9th. It's in Hinsdale at Redeemer Lutheran on 1st Street. Everything from bicycles to holiday lights, wine corks to keys will be recycled, and the shredding is for old financial records, tax returns, and stuff, which, you know, if you're like a lot of people, like I used to be, you've got for years and years and years, you don't need them anymore. Here at UCH, we're providing volunteers to work at the event on Saturday, April 9th, so see me, Dave Lloyd, or Mary and Hannah Wilson to sign up to help out. And next Sunday, March 22nd, bring in your old LP, March 26th, bring in your old LP records, and we'll swap records the following Sunday, April 2nd. Also drop off, maybe that's a 3rd, also drop off smaller items at the table downstairs anytime before the big event.
Thank you both, Dave and Jonathan, for reminding us how we are within the world. We begin our time together now in deep gratitude for this church home, listening for the wisdom of spirit, for the joy of connection, celebrating a faith home that invites us to step into our whole and holy selves. Let our worship begin. Please rise here or in the sanctuary or at home as you feel in body or spirit, and let us sing our first hymn, Gathered Here. Appear all the same. Thank you all so much. I would invite now the young and young at heart forward for a story. Yes. Hello. Hi, how are you all today? Okay? You all are going to watch pictures up there, and you're going to watch pictures right here. How about that? This is a story called The Day You Begin by Jacqueline Woodson. I really love the pictures in this story. I hope that you do too. So there will be times when you walk into a room and no one there is quite like you. This is going to be challenging. And I will turn the page, and then I will say, there may be that your skin or your clothes or the curl of your hair just a little different. There will be times when no one understands the way that you talk or the words curl from your mouth, the beautiful language of the country that you left behind. My name is Rigoberto. We come here from Venezuela. And because they don't understand, the classroom may fill with laughter until the teacher quiets everyone. Rigoberto from Venezuela. The teacher says, so soft and beautiful that your name and homeland sound like flowers blooming, the first bright notes of a song. There will be times when the words don't come. Your voice, once huge, is now smaller, and your teacher asks, what did you do last summer? Tell the class your story. We went to France, Kayla says. These shells come from a beach in Maine. A boy named Jonathan holds out a jar filled with tiny shells so fragile they look like they'll turn to dust if you're on your untraveled hands. My whole family went to India, Spain, South Carolina. Each souvenir a small triumph of a journey. Their travels go on and on and on. And as you stand in front of that room, you might only remember how the heat waved up off the curve of your days you spent at home, caring for your little sister, which is always good. Who here has a little sister? Okay, there we go. Sometimes you take care of her, huh? But when you're with your little sister, sometimes you make your little sister laugh and you hug really hard. And at nap time, you might remember reading books that kept you reading long after she had fallen asleep. And in that room, when no one else is quite like you, you look down at your empty hands and wonder, what good is this? When other students are flying and sailing and going somewhere. My little sister. There will be times when your lunch your mother packed for you is too strange or unfamiliar to the others to love as you do. When even your best friend Nadia looks over and says, what's in there anyway? And you'll wonder how she doesn't see the rice beneath the meat and kimchi. You'll wonder why she doesn't remember that rice is the most popular food in the world. It's not? What's the most popular food? You don't think it's rice? Maybe it's jelly beans. I don't know. Anyway, there are times when your climbing bars are too high and running is too far and too fast, and the game isn't one you can ever really play. And you might hear words like, I don't want them on my team. You can watch. Maybe you can have a turn later. Have you ever felt like that? No, that's great. Some of us have. I know I have. Anybody have? Anybody ever feel like you're sitting on the sidelines? If you're not raising your hand. There will be times when the world feels like a place that you're standing all the way outside of. And that stands beside you is your own brave self. steady and still and ready, even though you don't know yet what you're ready for. Sometimes when we're alone, that's the place where we know that we are. There will be times when you walk into the room and there's no one quite like you until the day you begin. You begin to share your stories. My name is Angelina, and I spent my whole summer with my little sister. You tell the class in a voice stronger than it was just a minute ago. Reading books and telling stories, and even though we were right on our block, it was like we got to go everywhere. Not just to India, but everywhere. Your name is like my sister's, Rigoberto says. Her name is Angelina too. And all at once, that room where you felt like you were the only one and no one else knew who you were, that room gets a little bit smaller because the world has opened itself up to a wider, and it's made some space for you. The day that you begin. This is the day you begin to find the places inside your laughter and your lunches, whether or not it's rice that we like or not, your books, your travel, and your stories, where every new friend has something that's just like you and has something quite fabulously not. So we're going to sing the kids to their classes, and I hope that you remember this story that, you know, sometimes when you feel like you're out of it, still there are people there that are like you, that you can find and connect with, just like all of us. So every week, or most every week, not necessarily every week, but a lot of weeks, we take a moment to thank somebody in our community who does a lot. We celebrate an unsung hero in our congregation who offers their time and talent to create this world that is whole and just and welcoming for every person. This Sunday, we say thank you, Dave Learn. Whether dressing up as the Green Man to add that live component to our Beltane celebration, or leading us on as we play a mean game of murder mystery, yes, part of the service auction, Dave shows up. Even today, you saw Dave shows up. We thank you for being there in so many different ways, for saying yes, and for doing all you do with the flair of the particular. You embody this congregation, and we are grateful for all that you do. Please, if you see him, make sure that you say thanks to Dave today. You all now know what he looks like. Please, as you think about people you see doing good work around the church, write to the church office, nominate someone to be recognized in a gratitude moment, or just simply say thank you. Really, there's so much that people do that we don't see and can't necessarily see, and so your thanks is always welcome. You're welcome to type things into the chat box if you're watching us from home about the people and things that you have gratitude for. As we move into our next part of this service, I want to, in this place of gratitude and fullness, I want to acknowledge that we bring to this church and church community a lot of different things. We bring our talents, we bring our time, we bring our treasure. We work together here at church to make the world a little better place. Now is the time when we share out of our own particular blessings to help the good work go on. At home, you can visit our website, www.hinsdaleunitarian.org, and click the donate button. A quick reminder that our shared plate recipient this month is UU Prison Ministry of Illinois. Reverend Allison Farnham will be here next week with Kathy Blandford to introduce us to a little bit more of the work that they do. If you wish to donate this month to UUPMI or to the donation for the Ukraine, please just put that in the memo field of a check that you're writing. If We all still do that. If you're donating online, there's a place where you can add how you want your donation to be forwarded. Thank you so much for your generosity. Right now, I invite us to say the offering words together that are up on the screen. This church is made up of all of us. It is what we learn together, the work we do together, the fun we have together. It is what we share with one another and with the people around us and with all the world. Thank you so much for all you do in this church.
The Paradox of Organized Religion by Dan Hotchkiss. Religion is at its best is not a friend of the status quo. Religion transforms people. No one touches holy ground and stays the same. Religious leaders stir the pot by pointing to the contrast between life as it is and life as it should be, urging us to close the gap. Religious insights provide the handhold that people need to criticize injustice, to rise above self-interest, and to take risks to provide healing to a wounded world. Organization, on the other hand, conserves. Institutions capture and codify persistent patterns of activity. Conservation is what institutions do. A well-ordered congregation lays down the schedules, puts policy on paper, places people in positions, and generally brings order out of chaos. Organizing religion is so difficult. Congregations create sanctuaries where people can nurture and inspire each other with results no one can predict. The stability of a religious institution is necessary for the instability that religious transformation brings. The need to balance both sides of this paradox, the transforming power of religion and the stabilizing power of organization, makes leading congregations a very unique challenge. Thus ends the reading.
As we enter into this different point of the service, the space of prayer and meditation, of sitting in that silence that we talked about, of being in a place where we might feel and know the awe of our lives, whether through a space that is broken or a space that is just burgeoning with joy. We begin these with the words from Philip Hewitt. From the fragmented world of our everyday lives, we gather together in search of wholeness. By many cares and preoccupations, by diverse and selfish aims, we are separated from one another and divided within ourselves. Yet we still know no branch is utterly severed from the tree of life that sustains us all. We cherish our oneness with those around us and the countless generations that have gone before us. We would hold fast to all of the good we inherit even as we would leave behind us the outworn and the false. We would escape from bondage to the ideas of our own day and from the delusions of our own fancy. Let us labor then. Let us labor for the dawning hope of a new day without hatred, without violence or injustice. Let us nurture the growth in our own lives of the love that has shone in the lives of the greatest people, the rays of whose lamps still illumine our way. In this spirit we sit. In this spirit we gather. In this spirit we meditate or pray. We send our care this week to Jamie Passman, who lost a musical collaborator. So many people have died in these last few years. Before we were gathering together, and now as we gather. It is hard sometimes to remember everyone, but here we think at least of their names as they come forward. And we remember these losses are particular and deeply held by anyone for whom they have passed through. We also remember Jim Mcdonald, a longtime member of this congregation who died earlier this month on March 10th. His memorial will be next Saturday. Please remember his family and especially his children at this time of transition. We also hold all the people in the Ukraine and Russia, all of those people who are used as pawns and treated without respect, for the humanity is what we each deserve. May people of good heart and good faith stand up, asking, demanding the peace and prosperity be restored to the lives and country of those far away and those that are closer as well. If something has arisen in you this morning, something breaking your heart open or filling it with lightness and joy, you are welcome now to come forward and light a candle. Those at home, please write your intentions into the chat box, but please only use first names because the service is live to the wider world.
I'm Sandy. I've been going through a lot of things, and with the Ukraine things, I have a family in Hungary who are in Ukraine right now trying to get the border. So let's pray for them.
This last week, someone who has worked for me for 9 years told me that she had found a shiny new job where they're actually going to pay her for her time. And I've decided to hire a good friend, which is a really good way to lose a good friend. So wish me luck as this job unfolds.
It's in memory of my friend Jim, Dr. Jim Mcdonald.
Hi, my name is Trish, and I'm just happy to be surrounded by family this weekend.
Thank you all. we light 3 final candles. The first for all those joys or concerns that are too tender to share in your hearts. The second for our leaders everywhere, that they may remember who it is that they serve and who it is that they represent. And the final for this church community who walks with us through all of our sorrows and all of our joys, making this burden more light and the joys more amplified. Thank you. If you would join me in singing Spirit of Life.
Why Liberal? By Reverend Dr. James Luther Adams. The question will ever be posed, what is the essence of liberalism? And so it is today. In order to answer this question, we must, of course, have the courage to just not oversimplify. A vital liberalism has within it tensions, struggles, and dialectic, if you will, with a self-denying ordinance which disclaims finality. We venture the following characterizations of the essential elements of liberalism. First, liberalism holds that nothing is complete, and thus nothing is exempt from criticism. Second, liberalism holds that all relations between persons ought ideally to rest on mutual free consent and not coercion. Third, being an ethical procedure that is purporting to be significant for human behavior, liberalism involves the moral obligation to direct one's efforts toward the establishment of a democratic community. And finally, liberalism holds that resources, human and divine, which are available for the achievement of meaningful change, justify an attitude of ultimate optimism. We may return to the previous question, why liberal, or why liberal religion? And the answer, because confidence in the principles of liberalism is the only effective resistance to ultimate skepticism and despair on the one side, and to blasphemous claims to authority and suppressions of criticism on the other. These are the enemies of the human spirit whose dangers are threatening us today. Thus ends the reading.
James Luther Adams was an individual who lived before my time. He may have lived in some of your time, I don't know. He died sometime in the 90s. He was a well-beloved scholar in just west of here in Hyde Park through Meadville Lombard. And he wrestled with some of the deepest questions that we come to with theology. What is the meaning of all of this. And in this reading, he wrestles with what is the meaning of liberal religion. And I want to point out that he wrestles with this in 1939, right? He wrestles with it when the world and America is at this odd place between whether or not we're going to get involved with a war, whether or not good or bad things happen. I want to point out that Kristallnacht has already happened in Germany, right, in 1938. Those Night of Long Knives, right, when Hitler goes out and kills many of his foes, has happened already in 1936. And he's bringing forward this question, why liberal? Why liberal? Indeed, because we have a place that does not conserve, that does not say, no, we won't ever question. We won't ever not ask why. We won't ever take the time to stop and wonder. Why liberal? Has anyone here ever seen or driven over the Mississippi River? Right? It's kind of an amazing experience, I think, and you might help me with this. You drive over a bridge and you see this water that goes forever, and it's so wide, except up in Ishpeming, where it's really, really small, right? But the Mississippi River travels and travels and travels. It gathers water from Billings, Montana, right? From Minneapolis and that area, even from the Chicagoland area. The Mississippi River travels and gathers and goes all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico and gets released into the wilds of the Gulf. This water moves through streams and little rivulets and huger rivers and branches and gathers in. And the amazing thing is that it gathers things all the way along the way, right? As it passes over dirt, as it passes over fish, as it passes over animals that are making their little hamlets in the sides of the river, it passes over and it gathers pieces. It gathers so much stuff that it goes over. In a year, it gathers up, I think it's 145 metric tons of stuff, right? That is enough stuff to build one of those statues that you see on Easter Island, the statues that are facing, or a different conceptualization, 10 by 10. So take a room that's 10 by 10 and put it up 7 stories high. It gathers all of that stuff. Just as an aside, 18% of that litter that you see on the side of the road will ultimately get gathered by the water and deposited someplace in our world. I saw a gentleman this morning as I was driving in who was picking up litter beside the road, and I just sent out a silent prayer. Thank you so much, right? Now we see it all the stuff that was hidden for a while by snow. This gathering happens, and the water is changed by whatever it gathers, right? It doesn't just stay the same. It gets muddy, it gets filled, it gets something. Just like the gathering happens with the wind, gathering happens with plants, gathering happens in a lot of different ways, and isn't it us that gather as well? Do we not gather from the families that we belong to, from our genetics, right? I have gathered from my folks when I was a kid how it was to show up in the world, right? That we were people who recycled, even though that was kind of weird in Mequon, Wisconsin. We were people who didn't watch television all the time. We were people who read books, and we were people who sang in the car all the way across the country. And if it was a good day, we would remember enough songs that there was never a break, right? I learned harmony from my mom. I learned from my dad the value of being able to remember every verse of a song. That is not my gift. But I gathered that way, right? I gathered how to cook potatoes for a holiday meal. I gathered what it was like, or when it was that you went to the park to do something, when it was that you went to the library, how it was that you showed up in the world. And I gathered all of those things. I gathered that when I go out in the sun, I burn. I am Irish. There's no such a thing as a tan at least in my vocabulary. I gathered that as well. I gathered from the school that I went to when things were different, sort of like the girl in the book today, right? When the things that I brought in for lunch, we were avid bread makers, and so I had wonderful brown bread sandwiches often with peanut butter and raisins, and they were great, but let me tell you, it put me at the bottom of the lunch pool trade-off that was going on every week. Nobody really wanted that. They didn't want the carrots, but I gathered that. And now I can tell that story with a little bit of a laugh, knowing that it was both the things that made us different and the things that made us the same, that made me into who I am today. We gather just like that mighty Mississippi River all the way through our time. We may feel on the outside or different sometimes, but I would venture to say that those times when we are outside and different are times that many of us in this room might even think about celebrating. Not always, but maybe we should or could. Because it's in the differences, it's in those places where there's tension about how it is that we show up in the world that my gathering and growth and transformation starts. This is a deep, deep religious principle. I learned from the people in the Buddhist tradition about gathering differences, right? Buddha Siddhartha starts out as a king in a king's palace. The king learns this story that from a wise person that says, your son is going to be great. He's either going to be a phenomenal king or he's going to be a phenomenal mystic. And so his father, in response, puts all kinds of restrictions around Siddhartha. Says, oh, don't look at the outside world. Don't go out there. I want you to be in this place, and I don't want you to die. Siddhartha, though, sees the world and says, it's not enough for me just to be here. I need to go out and look and do something and be better. And the story is much richer. I encourage you to look it up on Wikipedia or wherever you get your best knowledge. But Siddhartha becomes who? The Buddha, right? And what do we know about Buddha? Enlightened. He is the enlightened one. He takes himself from this place where everything is safe and everything is known and everything is just the way that he expects it. His meals are the right temperature, his bed is the right size, everything. He knows all the names of people, and he puts himself out into something different in order to struggle with what life really looks like. And eventually, he finds his hand on the dirt beside him to know this is all one. The story is not just with the Buddhists, though. It's within Christianity, right? Jesus, this wonderful Jewish rabbi who shows up 2,000 years ago near the Sea of Galilee, is there and begins realizing, I can't just talk to the people who talk like me. I can't just be here talking to you all. He reaches out to the Syrophoenicians. He reaches out to the Philistines. He even reaches out to the Romans in order to be in conversation. Clearly not different, not the same as anybody there. He might have some things that are similar that help him to feel like he belongs. But it's that difference. That difference, I think, that makes him into somebody that so many people now revere as holding wisdom. It's true with the goddesses Inanna and Kali. Inanna is out of the traditions in the Middle East, and Kali out of our Hindu faith, or the Hindu faith. Both of these goddesses are goddesses of creation. One side. The other side is the goddess of war. Creation, peace, generation. mixed up with this vision of how do we deconstruct in order to be able to create again. It is like gathering water, right? Water goes through the deep, dark Mississippi. It gathers up dirt, and then it gets down to the Gulf, and it goes out, and it evaporates back up in the air. Then it grabs a piece of dirt, and it falls again. It is in this cycle of constant movement and transformation, just like we are, or just like what James Luther Adams calls us into. We are not here in these seats to conserve only. Are we here to care for one another? Absolutely. And if caring is the best that you can do for yourself today, then care for yourself deeply. But in this place, in these seats, we are also asked to think about why. We are asked to doubt the answers that even we have for ourselves. We are asked to doubt the answers that other people are giving us. We are asked to take on that religious stance of curiosity that says maybe things can be different. And we do this because within this world, as liberal, religious, progressive people, what were our answers for yesterday? We realize may not feed us and bring us forward into the world that is or the world that is coming. I am so grateful to know that in this church there are wise elders that meet, and I know Reverend Pam talked about this a couple of weeks ago, that meet and talk and figure out that it is our stories and the stories of how we come together and the stories of how we are different, that within that conversation lies the seeds of the greatest gift that I think this congregation or any religion truly has to give. The gift of both knowing yourself, but also knowing that it's not over, that I can still learn, that I can still be moved by what I have learned so much that I make the commitment to change, that I change so much that I take that change out into the world that is wanting and begin the cycle all over again. We are like the Mississippi River, folks. I wonder within a progressive religious community if that stance is something that you have experienced. If you have been here and been touched by something deeply enough, or by some action that you have done deeply enough that you've said, maybe I need to change a little bit. Perhaps it's only me, but I think maybe I need to change a little bit. We have choices every single day. You all chose to be in this room today. You all chose to show up on Zoom. And I wonder why that is. But I know that for me, the reason is that I want to be the best person that I can be. That I want to be somebody who is constantly reaching towards that sense of awe, that sense of beauty, that sense of truth and justice. That I want to be helping to bend the arc of the world, right? That I don't want to end up at the end of my life saying, oh gosh, was I like that John Stuart Mill's quote, right? All that evil need do to survive is for good men to do nothing. Oh, please don't make me that. In 1939, Joyce Luther Adams wrote that quote, "Why liberal?" and said to the world of liberal religion, you must show up. Your voice is needed here. And I want to tell you, our voices are needed here still. This church exists because of your generosity, but it exists because of the generosity of your spirit as well, that spirit that is constantly going out and saying, how could I do this? How do you do that? Oh, well, that's interesting. Maybe I could try that. Maybe, right? We are here to belong. But part of that belonging has to do with being a part of a liberal, progressive movement that says what we were yesterday is not what we need for tomorrow. It may be built upon, but how we see and work and act within the world is forever changing, because the world is forever changing. It may have escaped your notice, but we're in the midst of a pledge drive right now. I imagine from that laughter that probably hasn't escaped your notice. Pam and I have talked about what we're going to donate for next year. And I want you to know that within the conversation of what and how we were deciding this, came forward this conversation of why. Why does it matter? Why does it matter how much we give? Why does it matter that this church in Hinsdale, in Illinois, in the United States, in the Americas, in the world, why does it matter that we are here? And it matters because each one of you is changed by walking through those doors. Whether it's through a pen pal and an experience that just blew your mind, whether it's through bringing food to people for pads, knitting a shawl for somebody that you know will give them the warmth, not just of the cloth, but of the intention behind it. Whether it's recycling or any of the teaching, being able to sit in a Buddhist, I don't know what it was for you. But you chose to be here today. And I know that our church will go on because of you and your commitment to this beingness and your commitment to making a pledge to make sure that the building stays here, that the people are paid what they need. Why church? Why liberal? Why here? Because what you do matters. How you show up matters. Who you are and what you think, how you know that you belong, matters. It matters the questions that you ask. It matters how you respond when someone asks you to do something. It matters how you show up in this world. It matters how you think and know things. It matters that you're still open to saying, maybe I'll try something new. It matters that you are the people of this congregation. I want to thank you for your support and for everything that you do. And for you to remember, we are a mighty river. We are a mighty river that gathers and transforms and continues moving forward because we affirm that liberal progressive religion has a place today and will always have a place in the human spirit. Thank you for showing up in so many different ways, and thank you for being here today.
This piece that I'm going to play for you is by Dmitri Kovalevsky. It's called Sonatina. It's the second movement, and it is dedicated deep from within my heart for our friends in Ukraine who are suffering terribly. Thank you.
Please join with me in these words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of its truth, the warmth of this community, nor the fire of our commitment. These we carry in our hearts and share with all the world.
I'd like you to join me and rise in body or spirit, wherever you are, and sing this number 6, just as long as I have breath. Thank you so much, and I'd ask you to be seated. We gather from sources of many different traditions on any day, and I want to acknowledge that Purim started in the Jewish tradition this week with this reading, a source of peace, lead us to peace. Source of peace, lead us to peace. A peace profound and true, lead us to a healing, to mastery of all that drives us to war within ourselves and with others. O source of peace, lead us to peace. May our deeds inscribed in the book of life be a source of peace, blessed and us with peace and others with peace. O source of peace, lead us to peace, a peace profound and true. Source of peace, bless us.
Dennis is going to do the closing.
Thank you, Dennis.
Sure most of you know today is Mcdonald. So I thought this might be appropriate. And I also wondering why you are following
Thank you so much, Dennis and Jamie. Before we part, I just want to say a deep regret of thanks. You all know me. A deep set of thanks to everybody in this community who is showing up. Pam will be fine, we will be fine, all will be well. I don't know what the world holds, but the world holds us right now. So thank you for your kindness and for showing up in the ways that you do in this world. You are a blessing to our life.